Hi, welcome to VYAPT Growth Series. This is season 3, episode 22. And in our growth series today, we have with us Mr. Navanit Narayan, the whole-time director and CEO of Haldia Petrochemicals Limited. Navanit is an exceptional leader with a proven track record of strategically transforming businesses of large corporations through a balanced and constructive approach. Obviously, it has to be consultative in nature as well. Navneet has a keen interest in ESG and is also leading and driving various ESG initiatives in his current role at HPL. Join me to welcome Mr. Navanit Narayan. Namaskar, Navneet. Welcome to VYAPT Growth Series.
Thank you, Pankaj. It's really a pleasure to be on this series of yours, and I have seen a few of the earlier ones, and I'm really proud to be part of this.
Thank you so much, Mr. Navneet, to take your time and be a part of VYAPT Growth Series. We have some curiosities today, and I'll start with the first curiosity. You know, you have led large, organizations in terms of transformation and taking it to the next level of growth. And your career has not been just into one domain, but various domains in which you have worked. So, what growth strategies have been the most effective in establishing a strong foothold in the petrochemical industry?
Pankaj, I think it's a very important question. Given where we are as HPL, Haldia Petrochemicals was established more than 25 years back. I think it was a vision of West Bengal government along with our founder, Dr. Chatterjee, Punindu Chatterjee. And Dr. Chatterjee is truly one of those visionary people that we hear and talk about, and I have been fortunate to work with him very, very closely. And the whole idea of HPL coming up in the eastern part of the country was to cater to the eastern market, because if you look at it, most of petrochemical and petroleum industries are on the western coast, and that's where this industry is thriving. I mean, if you look at Gujarat, Maharashtra, and other western states, you'll see the industry is really thriving. So HPL was founded in a way to feed the entire east, northeast part of the country, which had a very different level of growth. And that's how Haldia Petrochemical was started. Uh, Haldia Petrochemical is known for its quality of product. And when I joined the company a couple of years back, I went around the country to meet all our customers. And I think one thing I heard very clearly is on the quality of what our company has been producing. And that's a really testament to the technology, to the people, and to the processes adopted over the years and refined over the years. And I think that's really something that we have to build on. And that's a foundation on which we are building the business and building the organization. In the market today, we are a less than 10% player, and I think clearly we want to see how we can develop the business, grow the business as the industry grows, as the country grows. Our country is growing at 7% plus at the GDP level. Industry is growing at the similar 7 to 8%, and we really see huge potential for petrochemical in the economy. When you look at advanced economies, chemical industry and petrochemical industry have a major role to play because it's very core to any country, the use of petrochemicals in the growth across sectors, whether it's agriculture, it is white goods, it is automotive, you name the sector, it is there. We may not see it all the time, but we feel it and we touch it, and it's literally omnipresent from that perspective. So given that, I think we have looked at a few things. One is to strengthen where we are as a petrochemical player, and I think that's what we have done. And now second is to move up the value chain and set up downstream units. The downstream, I mean all our various outputs of our current operation, whether it's the C4 stream or C5 stream. How do we build new products that we can bring to the consumers in India? In India, as a country, we import most of the chemicals, and especially specialty chemicals is actually imported into India. And the whole idea is to really bring in that technology, bring in that product into the country, and really service the market, which is across the length and breadth of the country. So that is what we are trying to do. And with that objective, we are setting up our first project under that is the phenol and acetone project. So we are establishing countries largest phenol plant, which is close to 345,000 tons that we produce every year, and also acetone along with that. And
Okay.
to bring in the feedstock, we are also putting up on purpose using a technology called OCT. We are putting up our own source for producing propylene. So that is what we are doing as step one. And we have plans to go further down and do more value add, so that we are able to fill the gap in terms of what is the demand in the country and what's available, and really do more value added products for the economy to grow. So that's really what we are trying to strengthen our position, and really strengthen the business in the Indian market.
Okay, so we just talked about the growth of the petrochemical industry. My second curiosity is around how can we drive sustainable business growth, and are there any emerging trends or areas of focus which you foresee, you know, uh, maximizing the growth in this particular aspect?
So I think the question is very interesting. I think it's very, very apt, because if you're looking at, you're asking for sustainable growth and not just only sustainability. First of all, when you look at sustainability, and let's discuss that topic. We look at what are the products which can be environment friendly, which can allow in sustainable growth of the economy. And when we look at chemicals and you look at plastics, the advantage with plastic is it's recyclable, it's reusable. You can the life is very long. I mean, it is a very strong material, and the amount of energy consumed to produce it is relatively much lower compared to other metals that we compete with. So from that perspective, I think it's got a lower carbon footprint, and I think that is why advanced countries have a much larger and developed industry on petrochemicals. I think that's really what it's all about. So the one is, the polymers that we produce is core to the sustainability initiatives in the country, and across industry you will see utilization of it. We are the only producer, for example, in India, of cyclopentane. Now, cyclopentane goes into replacing HFC, which you are typically looking at use in air conditioners and refrigerations earlier. So cyclopentane is the only chemical that goes into replacing that, and we are the only producer in the country. So how do we produce more? How do we ensure that all the requirements of the white good industry, refrigeration industry, is met locally instead of importing it from other parts of the world? So that's one thing, is to produce what we need, which can be sustained, can sustain the growth of the economy. Second is, how do we produce it? And I think that is very important part as well, because chemical industry, whenever you think of chemical industry, you think it's going to be very heavily polluting, and it impacts the environment. Fortunately, the fact is different. When you come to our plant, and I'm Pankaj, you should really visit our plant and show your viewers what the petrochemical industry looks like.
Mhm.
You'll see 1/3 of the landmass is green. So we have
Okay.
a very, very dense green belt covering and enclosing the entire plant. So that's number one. Number two is the way we run the plant. I think the efficiencies and the productivities that we have, how we produce energy, how we produce our final product, how efficiently, that adds to the sustainability. And then definitely we consume a lot of power. And the whole idea is to have more renewable power coming in as a source for producing these chemicals and petrochemicals. And we have installed solar power, and we are looking at more initiatives to increase that. Also take more from the grid, because the grid is getting more green as more and more renewable energy is becoming part of the grid. The whole idea is to take more from the grid, and I think I must say that the grid today is far better than it was 20 years back. It's far more stable. So, industry can depend on grid. Otherwise, everybody was putting up their own power plants, which were polluting and using fossil fuel. So I think clearly there is a move to take power from the grid and be far more greener from that perspective. So I think these initiatives are really what I think is important. On a sustainable growth, and I must add a few things. See, what does a company like Haldia Petrochemical do to the local economy? So, I'll give you some numbers, and I think it's very interesting to understand this. So while we employ directly or contractually, let's say 4,000 people, but we develop jobs for people around us. So
Okay.
in Bengal, for example, as Haldia Petrochemical came in, the downstream units came up. The downstream units who makes simple things like a bucket that is used for carrying a bucket of water to other products, whether it is pipes or whether it is making batteries or for making parts for the ancillary industry for the automotive sector, or a luggage that we all carry. So there are multiple use of the petrochemicals, and there are what we have done an estimation, not estimations, really what we know. There are close to 1,300 units in the state of West Bengal, which came up because of HPL coming up, and
Okay.
that leads to jobs of close to 4 lakh to 5 lakh people. So
Mm-hmm.
it is not just one industry coming up in wherever it is set up. I think what it impact has on the local economy, on the lives of people. And I think that is really what sustainability is all about, because we just don't grow. We grow along with the community. We grow along with the people around us. And you create a more sustainable environment in which the industry can thrive. So I think that is a far more important thing, because there's so many lives dependent on a single industry. And that's why chemical hubs are really an engine of growth across the globe, and so in India. And that's what we are seeing really.
So you talked about sustainability as well as sustainable business, both from the environment and business point of view, and you talked about the kind of jobs which is created for now. I'm sure since sustainability is one such thing which is also close to your heart, and
Very
hence
true.
apart from the professional point of view, there's also a personal attachment to the environment that at whatever cost we should not pollute it more, or whatever which can be saved has to be saved at any cost. I move on to my next question, and my next question is coming from where you had answered a little bit around it, creating 4 to 5 lakhs of indirect employment kind of stuff. So looking at a diverse market you cater to, what do you think is crucial in considering the local employment? And when I say local employment, the local manufacturing which you're already doing, and how is it going to create and or add more amount of jobs, whether it is a direct employment or an indirect employment or an entrepreneurial opportunity which you might create in future? And the sub question to this is there any significant technological advancement which is significantly adding to the growth of this particular segment?
Sure. I think let me address both the questions.
Yeah.
First of all, when you look at chemicals and the polymers that we produce, what it does, and I'll take you an example which has the highest coverage. And
Mhm.
India being a very agriculture-oriented agrarian economy, how it touches the farmers, how it touches the entire supply chain, the cold chain that is used to carry uh, the food from the farm to the table. And I think that important play that we have in that industry is important. So while we are pushing polymers and chemicals throughout the country and also outside the country, how does it get used in an economy which is so relevant to us? So, for example, when you're doing farming, how do you use the different kinds of products, whether it is the film, which is there to protect the moisture and retain the moisture on the ground so the farmers can grow better? How different chemicals are used again for packaging, for protection of the farm produces, so that it can remain fresh as it moves from the farm to the stores and departmental stores, supermarkets, and then to the tables in the house. So the entire chain, and this very localized. And with this, you improve the farm productivity, you improve the livelihood of the farmers who are core to the country's economy. And I think that's a very simple example I've given you, because it touches literally everybody. And if you look at other examples now, when you go to other parts of the country where, for example, automotive sector is very predominant. You go to north or you go to south where all the auto players are there, including now in the west. We have a major role to play because the ancillary units are using plastics of different quality to develop those parts which go into vehicles, which are lower in weight. Once you have lower in weight, there is better fuel efficiency. When there's a higher fuel efficiency, you are getting greener.
True.
And that's the whole concept, because the moment you reduce the weight, the body in weight of a car, you improve the fuel efficiency. Even if you are a fossil fuel based vehicle, you are far more efficient, so you travel a longer distance for the same liter of gasoline that what you had done earlier. And that is how we impact the lives of people. So we don't, normally we don't get to see this, people don't realize that, but that is how things are evolving, and that's how we as an industry impact the everybody's lives. And I think that's a simple example I give you, but I think it's important to appreciate that. Now, coming to development and R&D, I think, what I think the vision of our chairman has been there. I mean, he himself being a brilliant academically, and I think the way he thinks through, he's done a few things. First of all, at HPL, we have something called ARDC, which is the application R&D, and we develop products which are required by the industry. And over the last 2 decades, I think a lot of products have been developed which are required by the industry. The second very, very big thing that he has initiated, which is really one of its kind in the country, I think one of its kind globally. There are very few such examples you'll find even globally. He believes that knowledge can create wealth and wealth can create knowledge. And I think that is the mantra from which he's working. And that's how the investment in something called the TCG CREST was made. CREST stands for Center for Research in Engineering, Science and Technology. So what he has done, he has brought back into the country and also from within the country, people who are scientists, who are brilliant minds in their respective field, to come together to create the knowledge which in turn will not just, and he doesn't believe in only having somebody writing papers and winning awards. It should impact the people. So with that, CREST is working on in various verticals to create technologies, create things like uh, on energy efficiency, I think there are various streams, and I don't want to get into all of it because I think that will take another half an hour to talk about it. But I think clearly the whole idea is to create knowledge, which will impact people, which will improve the lives of people around us. And I think that is what we, as a company and as a group, are really, really pushing hard. Because that will be something that will impact not just for next 10 years and 15 years, but next 200 years. And I think that's the way he sees it. And I think that's one big legacy he wants to really create and leave behind for all of us in the industry and the country to really look at.
So
So
we just talked.
yeah, like
Yep.
for example, quantum computing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, quantum computing, you may not see the results tomorrow. It'll take time, but when that happens, we know, and I think the country has taken some steps. But the TCG CREST took that step some time back, and I think that's what we have really done, much ahead of the game. Yeah.
I think, Mr. Nunit, you would agree to this that it's lately, almost many companies have started investing a lot into research because they have felt that in order to come up with the innovation apart from technology, it is very, very important to invest in research. And historically, if you see the figures of the last 30-40 years, India has been spending less on research compared to European and American companies, and hence there's a time to invest more in research. And the Chatterjee Group is known for its legacy in terms of investing into research, coming up with innovative solutions for the masses.
It is, and I think if I'll just take 2 more minutes on this.
Yeah.
See, when you look at the amount of research that is happening, innovation happening in the US, why the US economy is seen as literally the most important economy. It's not just financially they are strong or militarily they are so strong. I think they are very strong from an innovation perspective. They are very strong from in terms of pure fundamental research that is happening in the country. And the amount of investment that goes into R&D and research is very, very high. And that's why you'll find the brains across the globe tend to gravitate towards the US. we have to see with a billion and plus population that we have, how can we become a powerhouse in going back to fundamental research? And India has done that earlier. I think it was post-independence mostly structured around the government investments coming in. But as a private sector and all of us, I think I'm happy to see other large groups now putting in money behind R&D. And I think if we all in the industry come together and to really create the entire economy around pure research, I think that will be an amazing thing in the next 2, 3, 4 decades that we look ahead.
I think that's a really nice insight given by you, Navneet. We just talked around the growth, innovation, sustainability, as well as the kind of jobs getting created by the sector. We would now move on to a next round, which we call it as flip round, where a guest becomes host and a host becomes guest. So a question coming to you has to be answered by me in 30 seconds time.
So, Pankaj, when I first met you, and I think I've been thinking of asking you this question, as there is more globalization and that's increasing, how does VYAPT's approach to consulting, how will it impact in different regions and cultures? And what is your strategy around that?
That's a wonderful question, coming from you, Naneet. First of all, it's very important to understand the different cultures and the reasons in which we operate. And I'm sure the reasons and culture depend. In India itself, you look at whether we are one country, but at the same point of time, different regions have a different culture altogether. But when you talk around different regions, be it Europe or Asia Pacific, or you talk about North America or South American continents, we feel that different strategies are required to understand the mindset of different people, what these people are looking at from the product or a service point of view. So understanding the basic nitty gritties of the people, of the geography and their culture, depending upon what the client is looking at, both from the internal as well as the external strategy point of view. And then we probably plan the strategy more from the what is that which can be implemented. Okay. And then we give a solution which is more realistic in nature, and hence giving the results to our clients in long term. So that's what we look at in paving the strategy. It more happens from the strategy of a particular business might differ from one sector to another sector, and might also differ from one geography to another geography, looking at the nitty gritties of business. So this is how we actually pave in and understand different businesses before giving any specific strategy and implementation plan for our clients.
That's good. That's good to hear, and really wish you all the best in this endeavor, Pankaj.
Thank you so much, Navneet, for this question. We move on to our next round, which we call it as learning on the go. Navneet, the good part with us is, India being a country with 140 crore population, most of our population are still young and they are aspirational in nature. And that's where, we are rearing up to go, in our next phase of growth. One question which definitely comes to us primarily from youngsters, students, or early office goers, is what is that which makes a leader? Okay. And that's where we come across this particular question which we asked to our guest is, can you share some of the narrative, some of the incidences which has helped you to to become a leader what you are today, or has been a source of incredible learning for you? Any or and this is one more thing which I wanted to add from our side. Any message which you want to give to the youngsters? Obviously they are very aspirational, they are very creative, and they want to probably go for the next level of growth what India can think of.
Pankaj, that's a question which I can give a very long answer. So let me try and keep it short. See, when I look back at my life and my career, I think I was fortunate to go to good institutions from an education perspective. But I was more fortunate to have worked with people who have been uh, great leaders in their lifetime. And right, my first job, I worked very closely with Dr. Jamshed Irani, who was my mentor, and was fortunate to work with him very, very closely with Mr. Tata. Uh, Later on, as I moved and changed companies, got to see very closely Mr. Premji. I work in Nokia with Oli Pekka, who was the global CEO. Mr. Birla in Birla's that I saw. I learned a lot from these people that I work, and I think my person I learned most was my father himself, because he came from a very simple background, but he achieved a lot through sheer brilliance and hard work. And I used to ask him why he came back to India, because he was a Rockefeller Foundation scholar in the U.S. And he said, you know what, we had just won independence, and I met Gandhiji, I met Sardar Patel, and that inspired me to come back and rebuild the country. So to me, I think the learning from the people I have seen right from home to the industry has really helped me to understand what a true leader is. And I think a few things. One is you have to walk the talk. You can't just speak something and do something else. So I think you have to walk the talk. You have to be true to yourself. One has to have very strong values. And in the industry, there are times where there's pressure, and a lot of people tend to compromise on values. I think a true leader is the one who stands by the values and helps the organization to stand by the values. I think it's a very important thing, because it's not just money that matters, a position that matters. Ultimately, you look in a mirror and understand and appreciate what you are and what you have done, and you can sleep peacefully in the night. I think it's very important, and especially in today's world when we're getting more materialistic, I think it's important for us to hold on to that compass called the value system. And I think the last thing I'd like to add is, which I learned while working in most of these companies I talked about, they really care for people. They care about the decisions, what they take at the leadership level, how it impacts people, how it impacts the employees, the stakeholders, the community around them. I think these are very, very important things that I learned from all of them. And one common thing that I found across everybody's name that I have taken, they were big leaders. They are names that we all know about, Pankaj. I think all the names I have spoken about, they are famous people because of what they achieved. But they were all, one thing common was, they're very humble people, very down to earth. This humility was something as a common factor across I have seen. And I think that's what makes one respect them for what they are. And I think that's something we should not forget. When we see people flashing money and power, and then you look at the old school of leaders that I spoke about, I think that humility is amazing. And that's what makes the man a real leader. And I think that's what I would like to give a message to youngsters as they get into the industry and start their career.
So that's what you talked about, Navneet. Humility makes a person amazing, and that you shared some of the inspirational stories. You shared some of your leaders, whom you respect a lot, whom all of us respect a lot, in fact. And you are also one such epitome of great personality in terms of people first approach wherever you have went in whatever capacities you have worked across different businesses. Thank you, Navneet, for sharing this particular narrative in terms of what can be given to the youngsters, and humility is one such aspect. You also talked about care for people. That's being basic, which we call it as being hopeful and being kind, uh, which is really one of the aspects which younger generation can take forward in terms of building India for its next level of growth. Thank you so much, Navneet, for being a part of VYAPT Growth Series. It was really pleasure having you on our platform and asking you certain curiosities, and I'm sure it has been a wonderful experience for you as well.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a real pleasure, Pankaj. And thank you once more, and wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.